I absolutely believe that you have what it takes to be a great guitarist. And I can say that without blowing smoke. I can say that without having met you because I've seen it proven time and time again with myself, with my students, with other people's students, people who aren't innately incredibly talented, who have struggled along their journey as guitarists, but who have practiced the right way, mindfully, and consistently for years to the point that they become great guitarists. So if you aren't getting the results that you want, you're not seeing the progress you want, trust that it's not because there's something innately wrong with you. Your process is broken. So I want to talk about the number one thing that's destroying your practice and your progress as a result, and that is your lack of self-awareness. So in your practice, you think you're doing things that you actually aren't, or you think you're not doing things that you actually are. So you're not getting the results and you've convinced yourself that you're the problem, but really it's just because you're not practicing the way that you really think you are, the way that you know you're supposed to. So today we're going to be taking an honest look at your practice to see if what you're actually doing aligns with what you think you're doing or what you know you're supposed to be doing, to see if you have any of these self-awareness blind spots that are slowing your progress. And as I'm listing off these examples here of some of the most common self-awareness pitfalls that I've seen, I want you to comment down below any of these that resonate with you, any that you realize you're guilty of, to hold yourself accountable. And as you read all the comments down below, to help you realize that you are not alone in this. So let's start with slow practice. When I talk about slow practice, I can see my students' eyes start to glaze over because it's one of those things that we all know we're supposed to do. You're supposed to slow down, but with self-awareness, you realize, do I actually do that? Do I slow down as much as I think I do? And so the first part of this is just that. Do you slow down as much as you think you do? I've taught lessons before where a student will play something for me and I'll tell them, all right, play it again, but I want you to play that as slowly as possible in order to play it correctly, right? And so they'll play it again and it might be a tiny bit slower, but almost imperceptible. And they think in their mind that they slowed way down. I challenged them to slow down as much as possible. And in their mind, maybe they accomplished that, but in reality, what I'm hearing is it's barely any slower. That sounds ridiculous, but I promise you, if you are looking honestly at your practice, you are guilty of this at times. So ask yourself moment by moment in your practice, when your intention is to slow down, are you slowing down as much as you think you are? Now, the second part of this is maybe you're not getting in as many slow repetitions as you think you are before speeding up again. So you have slowed down, good job. You're drilling a section, getting in some really mindful, careful, properly executed repetitions. Some time goes by and you feel ready to speed up and then everything falls apart. So the reality of slow practice is that we can get bored, right? And we can just end up getting curious and speeding up sooner than we're ready. And it can be as simple as that. So maybe you just did 1 or 2 reps and you're like, all right, let me try it fast. You need more repetitions to build that good muscle memory at that slow, controlled tempo before you can speed it up. Or, and this is going to be a recurring theme here, when we're doing good practice, mindful practice, it's mentally draining. And so time can feel like it's going slower than it does when we're practicing mindlessly. And so maybe you thought you did more repetitions than you really did. You've got to be self-aware. And that brings us to the next example, which is just repetitions in general. You're not repeating the thing that you're working on as many times as you think you are. You could swear you've been drilling that section for 10 minutes when really it was just 2 minutes and you've already gone on to the next thing. I've heard this time and time again with my practice club students. Once they start recording some of their practice sessions, they're shocked at how often this happens, where they're not getting in as many reps as they think they are before moving on. Because it sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds like something we should be aware of, but that speaks to how sinister this whole concept is. We lack self-awareness in our practice. Now, this next one's gonna sting a little bit because I know how common it is, but have you paid attention to how much time you spend playing the stuff that you're already good at versus the stuff that you know you need to work on, the challenging stuff? We can so easily drift back, just float mindlessly back into those feel-good pieces or those feel-good sections that we've already mastered when we get stuck in the nitty-gritty of the hard stuff that we need to work on. Maybe we'll dabble, we'll get one rep in here, we'll wrestle with that one bar chord, that one transition, and then okay, good, and then we float back to the feel-good stuff we already know. There's a lot of time waste that happens here. Next, are you really listening to your playing? How sloppy is your practice? When you think you're slowing down, when you think you're playing carefully to eliminate mistakes, are you really eliminating mistakes? Are you playing as clean as you think you are? Or are you just kind of deaf to mistakes? Are you settling and ignoring certain things? My practice philosophy is always revolving around preventive practice, practicing in a way that prevents the mistakes from happening rather than always just reacting to mistakes. You make a mistake and you try to fix it. You make the mistake, you try to fix it. No, we need to prevent those mistakes from happening in the first place. And there's tools like slowing down and all these things that we can apply to do that. But people can have the intention of doing those things, of slowing down, of inserting pauses, of isolating small sections of the music so that you can be in control, and then still playing just as sloppily because they're just not paying attention. So be aware here. Listen to your playing. Is it as clean as you think it is? Or are you allowing a lot of mistakes to squeak by that you're just not paying attention to? And finally, we can lack self-awareness in how much we're actually practicing throughout the week, how consistent our practice is. When I've had students who swear no matter what they do, how many hours they practice throughout the week, they just can't get this one piece down. Once we institute a practice journal and a practice calendar to keep track of how much time they're actually spending on that specific piece of music, the results start to become clear. You start to realize like, well, on Monday, I practiced that piece for like 15 minutes, but then on Tuesday and Wednesday, I actually got distracted working on these other things and I didn't touch that piece. And then on Thursday, I only practiced it 5 minutes. When you're staring at the face of the reality of what you're doing, you start to realize why you're not getting the results that you want. So be honest. Are you practicing as much as you think you are? Or are you practicing that thing you're struggling with as much as you think you are, as consistently throughout the week as you think you are? Again, I want you to comment down below which of these examples you're guilty of in your practice, or if you've thought of any of your own examples, please share those. And this isn't about beating yourself up or feeling guilt or shame about any of this. I hope that this is empowering for you, because once you recognize you have some of these pitfalls of self-awareness that have been slowing your progress, and you realize that this is absolutely in your control to fix, once you do fix this, you'll be able to experience massive progress in your playing that you haven't experienced before. So, how do we fix this? Lack of self-awareness is solved by awareness. We need to be aware of that which we weren't aware of before. So how do we do this? Number one, pick one of the things that you've identified in your comment. Pick one to focus on, to pay attention to in your practice. Now that we've identified these self-awareness blind spots that you've had, you'll be able to look out for it in your practice. You'll be more aware when it happens because you just weren't paying attention to it before. So pick one to focus on, break that habit, and then pick another and break that. And systematically, you'll raise your awareness across the whole scope of your practice. The second thing that we can do is leverage the Hawthorne principle. So the Hawthorne principle is basically that we operate differently when somebody is observing us, right? So you felt this when somebody is watching you do something, you operate differently. You think about things that you wouldn't otherwise. You're more self-aware, you're more self-conscious. You want to do a good job, especially if it's a mentor, teacher, supervisor, and authority figure, right? I remember reading about this all the way back in Stoic philosophy. When you're going about your day, the Stoics would say, imagine a mentor, somebody that you admire, is observing you go about your day. What would they do in this scenario? How would they react to this situation? And that helps inform what you do in that moment. So we can leverage that in our practice. Imagine a teacher is observing you, right? Imagine I'm sitting there watching you practice. You're just automatically, even though it's a simulation, you're automatically going to be more self-aware. What would Nathan do in this instance? In fact, hey, I've had a student before like do a print off of me and stick it, which, if you want to do that, here, I'll give you a couple screen grabs here. Ready? How about that? Or we'll do all right. So Hawthorne principle, imagine you're being observed in your practice in a totally not creepy way. Finally, you can record your practice. This is massively effective. I mentioned this before with some of my practice club students. I'll recommend this. It's not something to do all the time, but for certain practice sessions, just record the whole thing and then go back and watch it. Maybe do this like once a week. Record your entire practice session and go back and watch it. And you'll be shocked at how often you're doing things that you don't think you are, or you're not doing things that you think you are, right? It's basically the Hawthorne principle for one. Having your phone recording your practice session feels like you're being observed, so it's gonna make you self-aware, and it will shine a light on things that maybe you weren't aware of. As I listed off these examples, maybe you think, oh, I'm good, I don't do any of that. You record yourself and you realize like, oh shoot, I actually did. I repeated that thing like twice and moved on. I could have sworn I did that like 15 times, right? Record yourself and you'll be shocked at some of the things that you are not aware of in your practice. All right, I hope this was helpful and encouraging. Take action on this. Don't just watch this and move on. Think about that one thing, that one example that hit home for you, and pay attention to that in your practice this week. Become self-aware in that one area and turn that around. Make sure you're doing what you're intending to do, what you know you're supposed to do in that one area of your practice, and you're going to see results. If you made it this far, please leave a like on the video and a comment if you haven't already. I am such a perfectionist and I want to do more videos, more instructional videos like this, but with the nature of my schedule, I can't do a ton of crazy edits and things, and so I feel like I can't just talk to the camera, and I think that's like just my perfectionism speaking. So if this was helpful and you want more videos like this, again, leave a like and leave a comment and let me know so I can get out of my own head about this, that this is valuable and I don't have to have a ton of crazy edits and visuals on the screen. That would help a lot. If you want to be a student of mine and go deeper, as well as supporting the channel, I would love for you to join my guitar course, Fingerstyle Journey. Will absolutely transform your technique so you can play the pieces you've always wanted, all while playing really beautiful music throughout the program. If you want to learn more about that, I've got that linked down below. But again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.